on Zoom. I'll just get rid of the...
Yeah, we can hear you, Kashantika.
Great. Okay, so welcome all. I feel very unfamiliar being up here on a Wednesday night. It feels like it's been a very long time. Well, it has been a very long time. I presume, do we normally... I feel all out of my normal order of things. And just watch out, because you might end up doing a few yoga postures if I go into autopilot. Okay, we'll salute the three jewels together. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Sangha. Sorry, I missed out one. Sorry, I was thinking we were going to do it together and then we didn't. I'll start again. Right, we'll start from scratch. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Dhammaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Sanghaya. Namo Namah. Namo Namah. Om. Hum. Okay, so yes, welcome to this evening. It is generally going to be a bit experimental. We're kind of playing around a bit tonight. And so the first half, so up until tea break, I'm going to invite you to do a bit of an experimental feel into what are known as the near and far enemies. So the last couple of weeks we've covered karuna, which is compassion, the cultivation of that in meditation, and mudita, appreciative joy, and the cultivation of that. So both of those, we talk about them having near and far enemies. So a near enemy is something that kind of looks like it, but has got a bit too much self-interest in there. And a far enemy is basically pretty much the opposite. So yeah, and sometimes, we can think about those and have an intellectual understanding, but there's something about getting a felt sense of it. And if you're not so used to working in quite a body-based way, go gently, go easily, see it as a bit of a playful inquiry, inviting that sense of curiosity into it. And if something doesn't land, you just don't get it, in a way, can you sit with that with a sense of kindness around that and just notice, all of it's useful to notice bits of ourselves, what our responses are, to things that either we don't get or don't understand or don't kind of quite, can we just let that see what comes up? Yeah, so that's my invitation. So I'll just backtrack a little bit and say a little bit about why these practices. So these practices are part of what's called the Brahma Viharas, or the sublime abodes, divine abodes. And in a way, why are they important? Because to me, more and more, I think they are a key component in practice, that we're not going to get far in our spiritual practice without this layer of positive emotion, without this cultivation of these, working with these states to create, in a way, it's, I think Paragar said it about working our spiritual muscles, or somebody anyway. It's that working to become more resilient, expansive. And it's about then we need that basis to then see more parts of ourselves. I think it was Kay Masiri in talking about the birthday of the center, touched in on there having been some difficulties in the past, and that we all have our parts of ourselves that are a bit outside our awareness. Sometimes known as shadows, the shadow parts of ourselves, bits that we don't really, we can't see. It's not that we're not trying to. And I think cultivating a strong foundation of positive emotion gives us more capacity to start to get to know all parts of ourselves and bring all parts of ourselves into the spiritual life, the light and the dark. Okay, so it's the different aspects are metta, which is love, karuna, which is compassion, mudita, which is appreciative joy. And we'll briefly touch on, in a way, the umbrella, the kind of culmination is upekkha, or equanimity. So that's the 4 of them. And we'll be mostly playing with the first 3 today, particularly mudita, which is appreciative joy, and karuna, which is compassion. Okay, just see if I've covered everything. Okay, so settling into a comfortable, easeful sitting position. Being as comfortable and as supported as you can on your supports, and taking time with that. That's an aspect of coming into connection with kindness in our practice. That setting up of the comfort of our physical being, looking out for our physical welfare. And maybe taking some time to tune into the sitting bones, whether the weight is going down evenly through both sitting bones, that you're not tilting too far back or forwards, and a little slight gentle rocking forwards and backwards, side to side. You can just find that easeful point of balance in your posture. And then allowing awareness to find that rootedness, the weight and heaviness that's in contact with the ground, their legs or feet, the bottom. And a sense of the lightness of the upper body rising up. That sense of uplift, lightness, opening. And allowing the possibility of curiosity. What's your inner world like right now? The emotional weather, the quality or flavour of your mind. Or if that feels a bit unavailable and a bit blank right now, just noticing. And so in this practice, we're trying to tune into a felt sense rather than a thought. So where in experience can you tune into a sense of ease, of well-being? Without too much thought, just see where awareness goes. If I suggest being with a sense of well-being, of ease, wherever that is in your experience. So we're moving between a little thought and more into the realm of felt sense of experience. So we'll explore the realm of Karana first. So maybe bringing to mind a relatively small difficulty you've had recently. So not too big, a challenging thing to bring to mind. So just seeing what comes up, what comes to mind, without too much thought. And being with that difficulty, can you imagine what it would be like to receive a really kindly response to that? An open, caring response. How would that feel in your being? To be met with care, with kindness. It could be a gaze of kindness or a response of kindness. How does that land? And then we'll come to one of the near enemies. So being with that sense of difficulty, something not being as we would want it to be, or something that's happened. And what about if you were met with a response that's more of a flavour of pity? If somebody was to respond to you with more of a sense of pity, how would that feel to receive that? Is there a felt response, a physical response? How does that land? And then we can come back to that sense of being met with care, of kindness. A sense of how that feels different. A sense of being able to rest in receiving care, kindness. And then we'll come to a different kind of response. So staying with that sense of unease, of a difficulty, things not being as we would want them to be. And maybe more so if it's quite a painful thing. How does it feel if you're met with somebody else getting overwhelmed or reacting in a way that's more about them to a difficulty of yours? How does it feel to be met like that? You've got a difficulty and somebody just pulls away, turns away, can't meet you. And noticing if there's different parts of the body that come into awareness, noticing the feeling response of being met in that way. And when it feels appropriate to, you can come back to that sense of being received with care, of kindness, in a straightforward, uncomplicated, kindly way of meeting whatever our difficulty was. of being fully seen, fully met, and how that feels. And then we can let that go. Just sitting with the body, with the sounds being sounds. Whatever's present, whatever's left. If you need to re-anchor in the body, the sitting bones, the rootedness of the posture, and allowing the upward expansion of the upper body, the lightness of the crown of the head. Maybe some gentle swaying, subtle movement just to re-establish that sense of poise and balance. As we transition to mudita, or appreciative joy. So now, if you wish to bring to mind something more joyful, it could be an act of kindness you've done recently, or generosity, or something that's gone well in a wholesome kind of way. A good deed, or even a good thought, kindly thought you've had. So bringing to mind something that you feel happy with, or fortunate to have had happen. So just seeing what comes to mind, and then tuning back into a felt sense in the body to explore what would it be like to have that good fortune, that good deed met with an appreciative joy. How would it feel to receive, to be seen fully and appreciated, and somebody joyful for us? Tuning into what would the felt sense of being met fully, joyfully, fully seen. And then we can shift into a different reception, if we were received with something that may appear to be joyful for us, but is a bit more filled with their self-concern, or that they somehow benefit from our good fortune, our good qualities, that it reflects on them. And then whenever you wish, you can come back to that being received with an open-hearted, joyful appreciation of us. And whether there's any difference in that, how that feels to receive. And we can go into our last side step. This time, so with our good fortune, our good qualities, if we're received more with a sense of envy or resentment, how does it feel when we get a sense of being perceived as a threat and somebody responds with envy, resentment of our good qualities, our good fortune? And then when we feel we've had enough of a sense of how that feels, we can come back to being received with appreciative joy, open-hearted response, seeing us fully, wishing us well. And just noticing, how does it feel, that shift of response to us? And then we can gently let that focus go to just sit with whatever is in experience, sounds, light, temperature. And how's that inner being feeling? So that was just a little kind of trying to feel around, the things that aren't quite the what we're trying to cultivate. So what called the near and far enemies. I just find it an interesting way to contemplate receiving those and how the flavour's a little bit different. But I just wanted to say very briefly that in a way we're exploring them, getting to know them, and it's not so that we can avoid them, it's so we can recognise them. Because what I'm going to come to on the second half is a little bit about balancing in a way and how these practices can work with each other. So if we find we're sliding off more into one of the near or far enemies of something, we might need something else, we might need to shift our practice, reorient. Something else might come in to help give us a bit of our balance back. So it's about becoming familiar with what these are, what they are for us, how they express themselves. And like I say, it's not about avoiding them. Oh, I can't do that. It's not compassion. It's like, oh, that's coming up. So we can get familiar, so we know when, we're in things that maybe give us little bits of information, warning signs that we've kind of slid off where we want to be. Anyway, so we'll move towards the break now. I don't know if we want to do announcements before or after the break, or should we do them after? Okay, we'll do them when we come back. So we'll have a tea break now and come back at 20 past, thereabouts, for the announcements. Sorry? 25 past.
You want a few more, like behind there?
No, I think that's fine. Okay, so over to the announcements person. Yes, and then we'll go on to Donna.
Lovely. Hello, everyone. Can you all hear me online? Jane's waving. It's fantastic. Fantastic day on Sunday for the Buddha Day and the Mitra ceremonies. It's wonderful to be able to kind of like come together again and see each other. So we've got a couple of events happening that are coming up, which are opportunities to get to meet even more people. So the 21st of May, a Saturday coming up, we have the Women's Gathering, which is an opportunity for women in the Sanghas in the East Midlands to kind of come together. Is there any details of where it's going to be by anyone? It's here. It's here, everybody. It's here. I don't know because 10 till 1. So yeah. So if you want any details, it's probably in the email, the weekly email. 28th, we've got a young Buddhist event here. Now I've been told that there are going to be mantras there, and there's also going to be a musical. What would you call it? Offering, and there's going to be a musical offering. So if you want to know what that is, you're going to have to come along. 35 plus. He said plus. I heard him say plus. Didn't you hear him say plus? Right, thank you.
Jerry?
Right. Very, very briefly, a very brief Dharma appeal, so I haven't even thought what I'm going to say. Really what I wanted to reflect on, I suppose, was we're in a particular time at the moment with the cost of living skyrocketing, and I know a lot of people can probably relate to the fact that it can be a bit tricky to find those few extra pounds. So I suppose I wanted to reflect on the different ways that we can give. I know in the few weeks coming up, we'll start to talk a bit more about volunteering, about how we can give our time. But also maybe just little things like if you're thinking of buying a book, maybe think of purchasing it from the shop downstairs, because every little bit helps, and the centre gets a little bit of whatever you buy down there. So if you do feel like treating yourself to a new little something or other, that's a good place to go. But also maybe, just going to mention something from a personal perspective. I'm going to tell you something quite personal now. I haven't actually set up a donation on a regular basis yet, even though I've been coming here for a long time. And my form of giving is to be kind of involved as many different volunteering projects as I can. But it is something I want to do, and I'm going to actually get it sorted this week. I've always been waiting for when I've got a job. But then I thought to myself, can I buy that cup of coffee? And I don't buy many, but I do occasionally go and buy a cup of coffee. And I drink quite a lot of coffee here. So I'm going to set up something to give on a regular basis, but a relatively small one. So I suppose I'd just like to say to people, it doesn't have to be a large amount of money, just a little tiny bit every now and again, and just think, can you spare that cup of coffee? That's it. Okay, thanks guys.
Oh, thank you, lovely. You give so much. You're generous. Okay. Hopefully that's secure. Okay, so next part. So yeah, this part I want kind of something that expresses in all sorts of ways. I think when we feel out of balance in our life, in our practice, and that kind of being creative around ways we find balance. So actually I'm just going to start off with a sutta. So this is from the Pali Canon, so that kind of traditional body of Buddhist texts. So yeah, I'll just read it and see what comes of this. So it's the acrobat, or the bamboo acrobat. I have heard that on one occasion, the Blessed One was staying among the Sumbas. Now there, Now there is a Sumban town named Siddhartha. There the Blessed One addressed the monks. Monks? Yes, Lord, the monks responded to him. The Blessed One said, once upon a time, monks, a bamboo acrobat, having erected a bamboo pole, addressed his assistant, Frying Pan, come, my dear Frying Pan, climb up the bamboo pole and stand on my shoulders. As you say, Master, Frying Pan answered. The bamboo acrobat, and climbing the bamboo pole, stood on his shoulders. So then the bamboo acrobat said to his assistant, now you watch after me, my dear, and I'll watch after you. Thus, protecting each other, watching after each other, we'll show off our skill, receive our reward, and come down safely from the bamboo pole. When he had said this, Frying Pan said to him, but that won't do at all, Master. You watch after yourself, and I'll watch after myself. And thus, with each of us protecting ourselves, watching after ourselves, we'll show off our skill, receive our reward, and come down safely from that bamboo pole. What Frying Pan, the assistant, said to her master was the right way in that case. Monks, the establishing of mindfulness is to be practiced with the thought, I'll watch after myself. The establishing of mindfulness is to be practiced with the thought, I'll watch after others. When watching after yourself, you watch after others. When watching after others, you watch after yourself. And how do you watch after others when watching after yourself? Through cultivating the practice, through developing it, through pursuing it. This is how you watch after others when watching after yourself. And how do you watch after yourself when watching after others? Through endurance, through harmlessness, through a mind of goodwill, and through sympathy. This is how you watch after yourself when watching after others. The establishing of mindfulness is to be practiced with the thought, I'll watch after myself. The establishing of mindfulness is to be practiced with the thought, I'll watch after others. When watching after yourself, you watch after others. When watching after others, you watch after yourself. So I just really like that image of the bamboo, of the acrobats shimmying up a pole, and that sense of balance, needing to balance. And yeah, how important actually, it's not self-indulgent to look after our own mental states and our own well-being. In a way, it is an act of care for others, because how we are within ourselves is how we will manifest in the world as well. And that's just such an important thing. And just to say at this point, while it flits into my head, I'm thinking we could do just a very brief groups at about 10 to, just for 10 minutes. And just to encourage anybody who's online who doesn't want to take part in a group, don't disappear, stay, because we'll do a meditation afterwards. So I don't know if we could maybe have, because there's not many people online, is there? We could just be one room with the option to join it. Could that be done? I don't know. They can just ignore the join. Yeah, so just to say, don't feel like you have to, but do if you want to. It's just to speak anything that came up earlier. Sometimes it can be helpful just to give voice to things. And we'll do a meditation after that. But before that, I'm going to say a little bit just of So we've got metta, which is the loving kindness. We've got karuna, which is compassion, mudita, which is appreciative joy, and upekkha, how they kind of can work together to support each other. But I just want to do a little reading from one of my favourite authors, Pema Chodron. This struck me. It's on a slightly different, but it's got this aspect of bringing in the two parts, to balancing in a way. So, inspiration and wretchedness are inseparable. We always want to get rid of misery rather than see how it works together with joy. So we always want to get rid of misery rather than see how it works together with joy. Feeling inspired cheers us up, makes us realize how vast and wonderful our world is. Feeling wretched humbles us. The gloriousness of our inspiration connects us with the sacredness of the world. But when the tables are turned and we feel wretched, that softens us up. It ripens our hearts. It becomes the ground for understanding others. Both the inspiration and the wretchedness can be celebrated. We can be big and small at the same time. We can be big and small at the same time. So yeah, I just found that really helpful. So yeah, thinking about the Brahma Viharas, these abodes, in a way they're pointing at, describing what the mental states of an enlightened being would be. So of course, we're not going to be in these states all of the time. So that noticing, that getting to know, that feeling into the states that are in opposite or nearby, and yeah, how we can adjust. So what I was reflecting on earlier, so metta or love, loving kindness, can make karuna or compassion more expansive, more inclusive and unbiased. So it helps soften up that sense of picking or choosing who is deserving or who is undeserving of our compassion. So that sense of metta softening, expanding us, whereas karuna or compassion can remind the metta, the love or the appreciative joy or mudita, of the suffering in the world, to soften and tenderize when those two, the mudita and the metta, are caught up in themselves. So it's a reminder that suffering and joy coexist. So just as Pema Chodron was saying about the wretchedness and inspiration, that they coexist. And the mudita, or appreciative joy, helps karuna, or compassion, not become overwhelmed with the suffering that we're bringing to mind or coming into contact. And it helps avoid tipping over into that sense of being into sentimental pity. And then coming on to upekkha or equanimity, which is in a way the fourth state that we can cultivate. So it's in a way the most subtle, the most mysterious. I see it as in a way the perspective beyond. It's the perspective that grows from having cultivated the metta, the mudita, the karuna. So it's love, compassion, joy, and the wisdom that comes from being with all of those and seeing that coexistence of suffering, of joy, and being fully with that ebb and flow of life. But even in that state can kind of slide off to a sense of indifference, which can, we can perceive that as being, more of a spiritual state. But again, that's that near enemy, state of near enemy. So the metta, the love, the karuna, the compassion, can guard against that upekkha or equanimity from sliding into that sense of cold indifference. So the compassion, the love, invites it to stay in the world. Whereas the upekkha has got more of a sense of that kind of wisdom aspect, which can give stability and fearlessness to the others, to the love, to the compassion. Interesting to notice if we're getting, if we've been focusing on compassion, we're also getting to know what our tendencies are. We may be somebody who tends to orient to noticing the suffering in the world and resonating and feeling for that. But that's going to be hard going, and sometimes we need to actually turn to appreciation, of joy, of seeing the good things to help support. We can't just give, or try and kind of be with all of the difficulties in the world, or even in our friends or ourselves. We need to bring in those different flavors of the practice of cultivating. So hopefully that makes sense. So I think now would be a good spot to maybe think about going into groups. We could go into pairs here, I think, like you did last week, those that were here last week. If people want to go into pairs. And it's just to, in a way, just verbalize anything that you noticed in the practice earlier, or any thoughts that have been prompted, or any questions that haven't quite formulated that you just want to, anything that would be helpful to bring into a form of words. So we'll just have 10 minutes on that, if that's all right. And then we will come back and we'll do a meditation after that, which will be, again, experimental. It'll be a mixture of the Karuna Bhavana and the Mudita Bhavana. We'll be kind of playing with those two together, balancing. We will be up that bamboo pole. So I don't know if you want to, and as ever, it's always an option to not if you don't wish to. So how did you? You don't get out of it that. Oh, about mute. So yeah, once you've finished off, whatever you want to finish off saying, then coming back to a comfortable meditation posture, but yeah, taking your time. The Zoomsters aren't back yet. Here they come. Welcome back. Hope you can hear me. Yep, great. Okay, lovely. So I was just saying, yes, re-establish meditation posture, make yourself comfortable, because yeah, we'll go into a meditation. So whatever you need to be comfortable now, maybe if the same position is appropriate, or if you need a shift of position for this sit, checking that you can find an easeful, supportive, upright position, that your shoulders can soften, that your legs and bottom can be heavy and softening, resting on the ground, that our upper body can be light, fluid, responsive. The crown of the head light and lifting. So we're both grounded and expansive. I'm just going to read Pema Chodron again. Inspiration and wretchedness are inseparable. We always want to get rid of misery rather than see how it works together with joy. Feeling inspired cheers us up, makes us realize how vast and wonderful our world is. Feeling wretched humbles us. The gloriousness of our inspiration connects us with the sacredness of the world. But when the tables are turned and we feel wretched, that softens us up. It ripens our hearts. It becomes the ground for understanding others. Both the inspiration and the wretchedness can be celebrated. We can be big and small at the same time. So the first stage, we're cultivating metta. Usually we turn towards ourselves, but if another way of getting in touch with metta is more appropriate right now, such as a friend, whatever helps, tune in to that sense of loving kindness, of meeting whatever arises with that care, attention, kindness. So dwelling in that sense of care, of kindness, of metta, and bringing into that a person you know that may be having difficulties, and bringing that sense of care, of kindness to them, so the metta can meet the difficulty. To tune into a sense of karuna and compassion. For a moment, coming back to that sense of metta, of benevolence, of care and kindness. A sense of caring for our own heart, our own being. And then we can bring to mind a person we know who maybe it's their good qualities we notice about them, or they've had something good happening in a wholesome kind of way, that we're pleased for them. We can bring into that sphere of metta, meeting their good qualities, their good fortune. The next stage, we can bring into awareness a good friend, and bringing that sense of metaphor awareness to the fact they have difficulties and they have joys, good fortunes, good qualities. Reconnecting with that sense of metaful presence and bringing in a neutral person. Connecting with that they have difficulties and they have joys or good qualities, good fortune. You can bring compassion and appreciative joy. And taking your time, shifting stages, having a metaful pause, checking in with yourself. Others we then invite into our sphere of metta, a more difficult person, as someone we're finding more difficult right now. With the contemplation that yes, they have difficulties in their life and suffering, and they may have joys, good fortune, good qualities. And the last stage, we can expand in whatever way seems appropriate, available. With those two aspects, that there is suffering and difficulties in the world, that we can meet with that care and kindness, compassion. And there is skillful, wholesome, good fortune of good qualities, bringing good things to people that we can rejoice in, appreciate, be joyful for their joy. And then we can let go of any effort. Maybe checking in with how you are, what's present. And becoming more present to your surroundings, the sound, temperature, light, the room you're in. As we bring the meditation to an end and the evening draws to an end. Lovely to see you all. Go well. Take care.
Thank you.
And yes, take care, all of you.